Welcome to TICHY News Channel 609. I'm Justine.
And I'm Chrissy. Today's top stories are a major snowstorm is heading straight this way and is going to hit hard in Cedar Falls. Also, there was a record high in arrests totaling at 42 that were made this weekend at the Hill, aka Sharky's. And finally, a guest appearance by Sigmund Freud.
Sigmund is here today to talk about his newfound theory about psychosexual development. The first part of Freud's theory starts with a structural model consisting of what he calls the three elements of personality: the id, the ego, and the superego. We are going to report live to Kim and Lindsay to see what kind of information people can give us on their knowledge about Freud and his personality elements.
Off to you, Kim and Lindsay.
Thanks, girls. I'm Kim.
And I'm Lindsay.
And we're here live at the Mocker Union
trying to find students that know anything about Freud's psychosexual developmental theory. Come on, this way.
Let's go interview this girl that's sitting down right here.
We were wondering if you know anything about Freud's psychosexual developmental theory.
Not really.
If you had to take a guess, what would you say it's about?
Probably about development and sex.
Yes, that's correct. It deals a lot with development of a child and all the different stages that they go through as they develop.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Hi, we were wondering if you knew anything about Freud's theory.
Which one?
Psychosexual development.
Chunks, but nothing to commentate on intelligently.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Yep.
Have a good day. Hi, we are wondering if you know anything about Freud's psychosexual developmental theory.
I don't know anything about it, but I've definitely heard about it.
Okay, well that works.
Heard of it.
Thank you for your answer, and I hope you have a good day.
Thanks.
Why, thank you, ladies. Even though they knew very little to nothing about Freud's theory, they tried their best. Now for a further and more accurate analysis, here is Sigmund Freud himself. As Freud gives us more detail about his theories, I would like to ask everyone who has a question for a better understanding to call or text the phone line at 1-800-FREUD-ROCKS. Again, the number for our phone booth is 1-800-FREUD-ROCKS. Call away, callers.
Hello, Freud here. Everyone goes through specific stages as they grow, but those stages are determined and focused around pleasure-seeking activities. I am first going to start out this informational discussion with id, which is found in the first part of life as a newborn. I believe that everyone is born with id, which consists of all of the personality components. Eros, which is the sex life instinct, and also the thanatos, which consists of aggressive instinct, which means death. This stage is based on our pleasure principle and responds immediately to the body's instincts. No matter the consequence and it's unconscious, the id is not affected by reality or the everyday world around them, which includes parents. Also, if impulses at this stage become too strong, the id can indeed take over that child's life. At this time, I would like to answer any questions the callers might have.
Hi, this is Glenn Coco. I was wondering if you could give an example about the pleasure principle and how the body may respond to it.
Sure thing, Miss Coco. A good example would be if a baby is hungry or has a dirty diaper, that child will cry for attention until its id needs are met, and if the need is not satisfied, then the id will strive and demand for more attention. Does this example give you a better understanding of id?
Yes, thank you, Freud.
You're very welcome, miss. I would now like to move on to ego, the second stage of personality. As a child grows into their first 3 years of life, reality sets in and a growing awareness develops with the understanding that you can't always get what you want. The ego maintains a balance between our conscience and impulses. The main job of the ego is to meet the needs of the id with the reality of the situation taken into consideration. As the ego sets out to keep the id happy, it also keeps a record of the rewards and punishments laid out by two of the most influential objects in the world of that child, which would be either the mother or the father. With these recordings stored into the back of the mind of things to avoid and also things to seek out, brings us to the third element of personality, the superego. This stage usually sets in around the ages 5 to 7, and unfortunately, sometimes this stage is never fully completed. At this stage, the superego always strives for perfection. The superego focuses on the moral part of life, which is deciding between what is right and wrong. These morals are developed through caregivers who initialize the warnings and punishments of actions. There are two main components of the superego. First being the conscious part of the mind where the child is aware of bad behavior and the consequences, and the other big ego ideal where it is aware of the rewards that can be given. These two work together to communicate their feelings of irritation, self-disgust, and honor with the ego. I would now like to open the phone lines up again for any questions that you may have.
Mr. Freud, Shaflonga Stan lad on the phone. I was wondering how the second stage, the ego, would respond if I were driving and a person were to cut me off and I was very mad at them.
The ego would restrict you from chasing down the car and trying to attack the offending driver. It will allow you to see that the behavior is unacceptable and that there are more appropriate ways to vent your anger. Is there any other questions out there? None at all? None? Well, okay then. I'm going to take a quick break and I'll be back in a flash.
Sigmund, that was very clever, and thank you, callers, for your questions. That is very good information and a very good explanation of how our personality works. Freud will now discuss the second part of his theory, which is the stages of development.
Back to you, Freud.
Thanks, Justine and Chrissy. The first part of my theory starts with the oral stage. The oral stage begins when a child is born and lasts up until about 18 months, and only the id is present at this stage. At this stage, the child is challenged to be independent. The primary focus is the oral cavity, otherwise known as the mouth. The child gets its pleasure from sucking, biting, chewing, crying, and babbling. If there is too much or even too little indulgence at this stage, it can end in oral fixation in later childhood, where there is urges to smoke, consume alcohol, bite nails, and even overeat. Also, it can cause individuals to become dependent and also aggressive toward others. The second stage in this theory comes out to be the anal stage, which happens to appear between the ages of 1 and 3. At this stage, the toilet and self-control are challenged. Also, the child is obsessed with the anus and the retention of the feces. While in this stage, a child's admiration and a parent's want and can clash in two different ways. The first way is that the child may struggle or refuse to use the toilet and may manage their pleasure from excreting just before or right after being sat on the stool. If parent chooses to allow children to continue this behavior, the child can later develop characteristics of being messy, reckless, disorganized, and careless. This is known as anal expulsive character. The second way is when a child enjoys the pleasure of built-up feces, and the child will develop orderly, careful, neat, and precise behavior. This is known as anal retentive character. The third stage in my psychosexual theory is the phallic stage. This stage occurs between the ages of 3 and 6. During this stage, the focus turns from the anus to the genital region. When the child becomes interested in their genitals, and others as well, the conflict of the Oedipus complex emerges. The Oedipus complex is when a child has an unconscious eagerness to seize the opposite sex parent. While the child being a male, the Oedipus conflict comes into effect, and the child finds a sexual love for his mother and sees his father as a competitor. Also, the child may have a fear of the father striking back and even think that his father would remove his penis. A fixation can also be found in this stage and is also known as a phallic character and develops reckless, jealous, homosexual, and self-assured behavior.
Hi, this is Stella Fingershine. I was wondering if anything like Oedipus conflict can have the same effect on girls.
Yes, but it is a little different and it is known as the electric complex. This is when a girl finds that she and all other women fall short of having a penis. She then envies and wants a penis of her own, where she then develops penis envy and becomes attracted to her father because he does. Following the phallic stage, the latency period appears within the ages of 6 to puberty. Within this period, the sexual period is at a standstill. During this period, sexual urges remain restrained and seem to interact mainly with children of the same sex. They also find asexual interest in athletics, school, and other activities. The last stage within this theory is the genital stage, and it occurs during puberty and on into adulthood. The desire during this stage is mature sexual relationships. In this stage, the genitals are the main pleasure focus, and the genitals are once again aroused and interests are turned into heterosexual. I hope that you all enjoyed my discussion about the new theories on elements of personality and the psychosexual development process, and thank you to everyone for all your questions. I will now return you back to the studio. Freud out.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Freud, along with our live reporters Kim and Lindsay, and a special thanks to all you watchers of TICHY News at Channel 6 or 9.
We hope you all tune in next week with Michelle Tushy herself and her newfound top secret information. You won't want to miss it.
So make sure you bundle up out there and stay clear of Sharkies. Have a good weekend.